Hi everybody, welcome to my latest video. It's roasting today. The summer has had a resurgence, and so these past few days of work have been a bit of a struggle, but I have managed to get a lot of stuff done, including a couple days ago where I put the camera away, brought it out from time to time, and filmed here and there. But I get on with loads of stuff and I just kind of do a little voiceover of all the work that I'm doing. So that's how the video starts, and then I get into some serious organization of this upper part of my land, and it's gonna revolutionize how I work. It really is nice to be able to actually find a tool when you want to use it. And then later on in the video, I save seeds for the first time from a few different things, and it was really interesting to try that, and I have no idea how it's gonna work out, but we'll see next season how that goes. So it's one of those videos where I catch up on a lot of small things, but I feel really good about the work I got done, and I hope you enjoy this video. I started my day off in the garden, which at this time of year starts to go really crazy. All of that enthusiasm from early in the season seems to gradually disappear as it gets hotter and as the plants get bigger and things get more chaotic. So things down in the garden were out of control, including the basil, which was all flowering, and I decided that instead of just lopping them off and dropping them to the ground, I would harvest the flowers and try to dry them for tea. I'm not much of a herbal tea person, but it does feel like there's all kinds of things that you can dry for tea, and I feel like basil is a good place to start. And maybe it's something I'll love, maybe it's something I'll get into, and I would really love to grow things in the future for healthy herbal teas, hot and cold drinks, and learn a lot more about that. So I started my day lopping off the heads of the basil, and I stuck them on a tray to get them all dried. I like to try to harvest the sunflower seeds each year so that I can grow more in the following season, but the birds have mostly beaten me to it. They've eaten the seeds from most of the small flowers, it seems, but I did find one gloriously large sunflower head that I'm going to harvest the seeds from later on. I did spot a couple more sunflower heads that are going to be ready for harvest pretty soon. I just think they need a few more days, so hopefully I can get to those before the birds do. I also finally found time to look after my suffering cherry tree. It's been completely crowded out by the sunflowers I planted around it, which maybe wasn't the best idea. Also, loads and loads of weeds, and there's even a squash of some kind creeping its way along the ground towards the tree. So I cleared out the base of the tree, added some more compost that I mixed up. It's a mix of store-bought compost and horse poo pellets. So hopefully that fertilizer and that new soil and the freedom at the base of the tree from all the weeds will help the cherry tree to thrive and grow, because at the moment it's looking really, really sad. So while it's always lovely to see a surprise squash in the garden, it's kind of sad to see the state of my cherry tree. I don't think I should have planted sunflowers so close to the base, and I definitely should have kept it a lot better weeded as well. But I hope it's gonna thrive and survive, and there is some sign of green leaves on it. As long as I keep her watered and keep better care of her, I think she'll do okay. Another tree that I've long ignored, and it's suffered for it, is my banana tree, which has been sitting in a pot for ages, completely crowded out by weeds and with its own banana pups growing around it as well. So I finally weeded the pot and harvested the smaller banana plants, put in their own pots, and hopefully they'll grow big and strong like the mother plants and create banana plants of their own, because I like to sell these to people or give them as gifts or barter with them. They're a plant that's in demand in these parts because very few people grow them, and I just love growing them, and it's pretty easy actually, and you can sell them for a pretty good price. So it makes a lot of sense for me to take very good care of my banana plants, and I finally got on top of that job as well. Separating the banana pups from the mother plant can take a little bit of effort, and you have to be really careful not to ruin the roots. In the past, I've definitely lopped off a few pups and completely annihilated the roots, and the plant will have no chance of growing. But as long as I'm patient and work away at it slowly, clawing away the dirt where I need to and trying to see as much as possible before making the cuts, I've been pretty successful the past few times that I've tried it. The cats were hanging around, so of course I had to take a little break and give Larry and Mikey a bit of a cuddle before I then repotted 2 more banana pups, and hopefully they're going to grow into big, strong plants in the future. And then it was finally time to address the craziness, the chaos, the disaster that has become the front of my house. It's basically just become a dumping ground for all sorts of things. And the scariest part of all is, of course, my long ignored polytunnel, which has been filled with crap over the years, and it's just a horrible place to try to find anything in. And so it definitely, finally, needs some attention. So I spent a decent amount of time cleaning up. As you can see, it's still quite chaotic in the tool department, but the building materials side of things is looking a little bit more organized, and I'm really trying to prepare for the firewood coming, which I'd love to store in the polytunnel. I need to clear the tools away. I'm going to do that maybe tomorrow, very soon, and I'm going to get some kindling up here. I've got some pine needles already. So while the polytunnel isn't massively impressive as far as tidiness goes, I have made a pretty good dent out here, clearing up all of the random bits of wood and stuff. I scraped some of the sand off of the ground, and now the bucket is, of course, too heavy for me to move. So when I start mixing stuff, I'll slowly work through that. And then underneath here is some fine sand, and I think what I'll try to do possibly tomorrow is scoop it up into buckets as well and try to clear this entire area because it's looked pretty bad for a while. I'd also really like to tomorrow get to the pomegranate tree and lop off these suckers, and I'm going to head down to the bottom terraces now and do the same thing on the trees below. And then after a very busy and productive day, I got a second wind in the evening, and I decided to head down to my second terrace to give some attention to my almond tree. I gave my trees on that terrace a water, and then I decided to lop off the suckers from the bottom of the almond tree. Finally, I've been staring at those things for ages, walking past them, meaning to do something about it, but never did, so I finally got around to that. Luckily, using the tool of joy to lop off suckers from the bottoms of the trees and to do pruning is very satisfying, and I always feel so much better knowing that the trees are cared for. I can tend to neglect the trees from time to time. I just tend to get busy with other things, and I assume that because they're a little older now, most of them are about 4 or 5 years old, I just assume that they can sort of look after themselves mostly, but the reality is they do need water and they do need pruning, and I need to be a little bit better about taking better care of them. And because the evening was so beautiful and because I still had a bit of energy left, I decided to head down to the bottom terrace to give my trees a drink It's been weirdly hot lately, and I'm just trying to give them as much water as I can. They had a bit of a struggle in August where they didn't get watered as much as they should have because I was away and I forgot to mention it. But I think they're all pepping up, coming back to life, and looking a lot healthier than they were. And that includes the olive trees. The olives themselves are looking a bit dry, so I might actually need to put some water on the base of those. But some of the trees still have suckers on the bottom, and I decided that while I was watering the trees, while I'm dragging the hose around, waiting for that to do its job, I might as well get to work clipping off the suckers from the bottom of the olives and then chopping them into small pieces to use as mulch around the base of the fruit trees. I really enjoy time spent on my bottom terrace with the trees. I can wander around, give them a visit, check on them. But more than that, watering the trees and cutting suckers is such a mindless job that I can stick an audiobook on, zone out, and just enjoy the lovely weather, have a little wander around, listen to something, and it's just a really enjoyable way to spend my time. Though the weather's been pretty hot during the day, it's been incredible in the evenings, and it's just nice to spend the time outside. The trees are looking really good. The lime tree is absolutely packed with limes. The apple tree has definitely sprung back to life after looking pretty sad for a while. And the orange tree that I uncovered from the brambles, it's looking good. I think I might take off the oranges so that the tree can focus its energy on survival. But it's looking a lot better than I expected, and hopefully she springs back to life. I also spent some time on the bottom terrace trimming some fennel that sprung up. It's enormous, and it always gets in the way of my strimmer and breaks the string. So I decided to cut some of those down to size. I have loads of them around the land, and they're gonna basically open up the space and allow me to get into where the well is a little bit more easily so that I can tackle that job one day in the near future. So it's a brand new day, and I thought I would start it by continuing to organize my life. I'm putting in a pretty good effort to try to just arrange things, I guess. The polytunnel has been a disaster for several years, and a lot of it has to do with not having a spot to put the tools. So since my dad and mom built this wonderful Tully tower with some tool storage space, I'm determined to finally get the tools from here organized and put into there. And part of the reason is because I'd love to use this space for my firewood storage, which I'm probably going to order within the next few weeks. And so you might have noticed that a shelf has come from the back, and it's out here now. And this one is going to go in the kitchen to replace the one that I've put in the Tully tower. But since I've given all of zero thought to my future kitchen, chances are that this shelf is going to stay in there for a while. And it's looking pretty spiderwebby, it's looking pretty rough, so I think what I'll do is sand it up and then give it a stain, and then when I move it into the kitchen, it'll look a lot nicer and I'll be happier with it. So my first task for this morning is sanding and staining my brand new kitchen unit. Actually, the first thing I'm gonna do is say hello to this little guy. Cats have been really lazy lately. They've been spending a lot of time chilling on my bed, snoozing and relaxing, and it looks like you've got relaxing morning plans. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, I'll stop annoying you, and I'm gonna get to work under the supervision of Mikey the cat. Actually, before I get to the sanding, I'm gonna saw off these little nubby bits that stick out because they don't seem to serve any purpose that I can think of, and I might as well just take them off now while I can. This is probably safer. So I've decided that sanding this thing and staining it is too much of a pain in the neck, partly because it's really hot out here and I have 500 million other things to be doing, and partly because the sander Velcro thing is really old and the sanding discs keep flying off of it. So it's made sanding really, really difficult. I do have a spare one somewhere, but you know, I feel like I've gotten most of the splintery bits off. The spiders seem to have vacated for the most part, and this isn't going to be permanent. It might be in there for a while, but it's not going to be in there forever. So I think she's good enough. And after a little bit more of a clean and spider web removal, it'll be good to go. All right, I think this is okay for the moment. I definitely have some more organization to do. Could probably get rid of some things, consolidate some things. I don't know if I need this many mugs in my life, if I'm honest with you. I'd love to put some shelves in here, and maybe down at the bottom as well. I have a few more things to add into the shelving unit that are over there at the moment. So it needs some more attention for sure. And now the mission is to clean out the polytunnel, sort out the tools. Say hello to this little dude. How's it going, Larry? He's just risen from a nap. I know. I know. Exactly. So this is going to be a pretty unenjoyable job, I think. I'm not massively fond of sorting out disasters, but I know that when I finish, I'll feel really, really good. But because it's super hot today and this polytunnel is like a sauna, and because I can see a few wasps buzzing around in here, and I'm pretty sure there's a nest over there, I'm just gonna load up the wheelbarrow and take everything outside and sort through things up there. So this is what things look like in here now. And this is what things are looking like at the side of the house and inside of the Tully Tower. So I'm gonna brave the heat, get on with things, hope I don't lose the will to live in the process, and I'll check in again probably in a couple hours, hopefully with organized tools and an organized polytunnel. Holy smokes, this has been a long and arduous process. Even though the work hasn't been physical, it's really taken the toll. But check out this polytunnel. I have organization, and it feels really, really good. It's about 8 p.m. and the heat has been brutal today. This is really the only time I've been standing in the polytunnel without just coming and going as fast as possible. I actually ended up doing a lot of the sorting work inside the house. I just had everything laid out all over my floor with the fan blowing on me, listening to podcasts, and just picking through all of the stuff that I have. And I've come up with some systems to help me better keep track of all of the tools that I have. So I'll give you a little tour of what I've been up to, but though it has been surprisingly challenging, it has been incredibly rewarding as well. And I did have a lot of other things I wanted to get on with today, but I'm gonna finish the day off, I think, with an ice cream in the hammock because I haven't sat in that thing very much this summer at all. And I feel like after today's effort, I deserve a rest. But before I get to chill in that, let's just take a look around at what I've done. As you can see, I have cleared out most of this area, and my hope was to scoop up this fine sand and stick it in buckets. But once I actually uncovered all the crap on top of it and unfurled it, there's way more sand here than I remember ever ordering. So I'll probably try to scrape it into a pile and throw the tarp over it and just try to work through it. And then inside here, to the left, I have the beginnings of my firewood store. I've got 2 things of pine needles, some kindling, and then all this stuff. If I don't use it for some carpentry project, I'll end up just chopping it and using it in the wood burner. Same with this stuff. I'll probably end up stacking the firewood along here somewhere. So I'll eventually use this or chop it into kindling. And then over here we've got some straw for building, some just random things in a pile. And then I've got some organization happening. So I've got all of my painting things and staining things. I've got some cleaning stuff. Anything brush related really is in there. I've got the plastering tools I use most often, and then the ones I use less often. Got some glass things down here. I often use these things in bottle walls and stuff. This is a bag of who knows what. I'll go through that later on. This is some random plumbing things. Safety stuff. All the sharp, cutty things. Bucket of things that I still need to go through. And then this is the bucket of the stuff that I use most often. And then I've got some bags of lime and cement and things, some buckets, some tools, some cardboard, and things are just kind of organized in buckets. So even though it is still a little bit chaotic, it's way better than it was, and I'm very pleased with how that turned out. But the thing that is most exciting is what's going on up here, and I haven't actually even finished this, but I'm really, really happy with one idea that I had, and I think it's just gonna change everything for the better. And that very exciting thing is the contents of this box, and also the contents of this, but it's not yet in the box. So, one of my main problems is finding drill bits and screwdriver bit things when I need them, and so I figured I'd make one box with all of the drill stuff in it. So I've got the drill and the impact driver in there. I'm gonna sort through all of the drill bits that I have in here, put them in various places, and then I think I can use this thing to eventually hold screwdriver bits, impact driver bits. Let's see if I can open it. There we go. So I'm kind of imagining different bits in this, some screwdriver things, metal, concrete, whatever, everything separated, larger ones in there, and then the drill and the driver underneath. so that when I need to use them, I grab the box, everything I need is in there, and I don't need to tear my hair out trying to find the right bit when I need it. As you can see over here though, the one thing I still haven't done is sort through all the screws and all the other miscellaneous random things that are in here. So that's gonna take some time, and I was really, really busy sorting out the polytunnel and also putting stuff in here. So this is looking a lot better as well. I've got some tools crammed in here. It all does fit reasonably well. I've got a lot of the stuff that I use most often, especially things that aren't really good in the polytunnel. I don't know how many times I've ruined masking tape and other tape by having it in the hot polytunnel. Same goes for glue. I've got some measuring stuff in here, some marking things, the sharp things, chisels and stuff. It's the broom and the tool of joy on a stick, and then the Makita power tools are all laid out here as well. And then over here, I still need to get more jars. I've run out of this size, so I think what I'll either do is order more jars, get the screws in there all the way down, or I'll just go to the shop and buy a different size of jar so I can actually push on with this project. But things are looking good. I'm so pleased with this, and I'll be even happier once I actually get everything in there and ready to go. So there were a couple more things I was hoping to get to tonight, but you know what? They'll be there waiting for me tomorrow, so I'm gonna grab an ice cream, hit the hammock, and relax for the rest of the evening. So I've taken it easy this morning, starting the day off with yoga and a coffee because it's going to be incredibly hot. And I wanted to do just a simple task of saving seeds from these flowers. And I really thought the seeds would be these, but they just look like dried petals. So I actually don't really know how to collect seeds from flowers. So I suppose I need to do some research about how to save seeds for zinnias, which is what most of those flowers are. But one thing I do know how to do is sunflowers. So I have a nice old gigantic sunflower head up top. But while the head of that other sunflower is large and glorious, the plant is actually quite small. And I would really, really like to grow some more tall ones. And I love how this plant has lots of little sunflowers along the side and then a couple big ones at the top. So this one seems like it might be ready to harvest. Let's chop it off. Take it up to my seed harvesting table and yeah, see what we've got. But it looks like it's packed with wonderful, wonderful sunflower seeds. And then I'd also really love to save some tomato seeds, starting with this variety because I don't actually remember what it is. And these little tomatoes are so sweet and really, really delicious. And so though I've never saved seeds from a tomato before, and though I do know there's some finickiness to it, it's not just straightforward necessarily, I'm going to look it up on the internet and give it a try, because if I can grow more of these next year, I will be very, very happy. I'm going to save a few to munch on, but I've got a few more as well to try to harvest the seeds from, and maybe I'll just stick with this variety this year and think about harvesting and saving seeds more next year when I have more time and more space. But the garden has been really good to me. I also have a few chili peppers up top that I'm gonna try to save the seeds for. And so that seems like a nice, relaxed activity for this morning. Because even though we're 3/4 of the way through September, it's gonna be something like 37 degrees today. And it's way too hot to be working outside. It's a surprise that it's this hot. But it does give an opportunity to go to the lake. So some friends and I are going to be meeting at the lake later this afternoon for what I think will be the final swim of the season. So as a nice, relaxing, hot weather activity, I'm going to save some seeds from sunflowers, chili peppers, tomatoes, and cucumbers. So saving sunflower seeds is easy and oh so satisfying. You basically I guess wait until the right moment, and there's a fine line between getting a head full of loads and loads of seeds like this one and having to share the seed harvest with the birds. So most of my sunflowers down there I've actually left for way too long, and they've all been completely ripped of their seeds, which is fine, makes the birds happy, and this is plenty of seeds. So all you do, once you get the top part off, is just sort of tease them out. And out they come. Incredibly, incredibly satisfying. And it'll be interesting to see the difference between getting these seeds out from an older sunflower head and getting the seeds out of the newer one that I just picked. That'll do. And then we've got this guy. And so saving seeds is definitely on my very long list of things that I'd love to learn, but I'm only just organizing my tools for the first time, so keeping track of seeds and keeping those organized at this stage doesn't seem like something that would be very successful. But if I start small and build from there, perhaps it'll all work out okay. And since I'm going to be putting my screws in jars, I think I might have some extra storage unit things with some drawers. So perhaps that might be a good spot to store some seeds, maybe put them in little envelopes, keep things organized like that. I don't know, but if I start with these ones, get them going, and if I don't lose them before the next season, I'll feel like that's a success. Stuff like cucumbers and tomatoes, and maybe everything actually. I think if you harvest the seeds from the plants in your own garden, they're kind of more acclimatized, I think, to the local conditions, and so in theory, at least from what I've seen and read, the plants should become stronger and stronger each year as they kind of get to know the local environment. So it's really, really fun taking these off the sunflower head, and it's also really cool to know that you can just keep the cycle going. The challenge, as I mentioned, is more about staying organized than it is about actually harvesting the seeds. But this will be my first time for a few things. I've never saved seeds from a cucumber, so we'll do that afterwards. And tomatoes, same thing. And I've got these really old chilies that have been kicking around for a while. I don't know if they're too soft and weird now, but I'll take them out, harvest them, and maybe label them as the weird old soft chilies. And maybe I won't be able to use them next year, maybe I will. Anyway, I'm really blabbing on a lot about seed saving, which I know nothing about at all. Let's have less of me talking and go back to a bit of sunflower ASMR. So of course, I put the seeds on the tomatoes by accident and now they're buried, but let's fish them out. There they are. Don't remember how many there were in there, so I could be finding a tomato later. No, that looks good. So I looked on the internet, and the advice that I have been given by the trusty internet is that tomatoes and cucumbers have sort of a fleshy pulp around them, and in order for the seeds to be saved, you have to get that fleshy pulp off. And that means fermenting them for 3 to 5 days. I don't know if there's other ways to do that, but this is what was recommended. So for small tomatoes, you can just squash the seeds right in to the water. And for larger tomatoes, you would want to get in there with a spoon and scoop out the innards of the tomato and discard the skin. So these are going to go into the water. I'm going to cover it with a paper towel and an elastic band, and I'll just leave it in a cool, dark place for a few days, checking on it, swirling it occasionally. I Apparently a yucky film might just develop on the top of it. And eventually, apparently, the pulp and then the water will sort of separate so you can see a difference. And the seeds will be at the bottom. And any seeds that aren't going to work, they will, I think, float to the top. At least that's what it said about cucumber seeds. So let's get these in there. There you go. I'm really curious to see how this turns out. I've never done this before. And yeah, it should be fun to see how it all goes. So I've got some skin in there. I'll fish it out later, but I've got a fair few number of seeds in there. So set that aside, and let's do cucumbers. So apparently for cucumbers to work, they need to be old and yellowed. And these ones I actually harvested ages ago, and they've been sitting around the house for a while, so I don't know if they'll be any good or not. But with cucumbers, you want to scrape them out with a spoon and discard any of the pulpy stuff that goes into the water. But it looks like I can actually get to the seeds without taking too much of the pulp, so that's good. And same thing, leave it 3 to 5 days fermenting, cover with a paper towel. And by the end of it, the seeds should have separated. The pulp will have risen to the top or something like that. And then you take them out, dry them on a plate, I think for about a week, and then stick them in an envelope, label them, and hopefully I'll have seeds for next year. So these cucumbers are very difficult to find here. It's special pickling cucumbers that I bought from a seed store in Canada. And so if I can save these and get them to work, that's going to save me a decent amount of money and a lot of hassle in the future. And then these tomatoes, I have no idea what they're called. It is important that the plants are heirlooms and not hybrids, so that you get the plant to grow true to what the mother plant is. I'm not sure if these are heirlooms. I think that they're not, but I'm going to give it a try anyways and see what happens. So I've got another cucumber to do later, and then I've got a whole bunch of kind of festy looking chili peppers. I think I'll just stick with the best ones. And I actually haven't looked this up yet, so let's consult the internet and see what it says. So after watching one lone video on YouTube about saving chili pepper seeds, I decided that the ones I had were a little bit too old and crusty looking. So I decided to pick some new ones. And this guy on the internet basically just said, chop them in half and then let them dry. So that seems like a really easy way to do things. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just place them in this little container here. That one that I just did is a unknown miscellaneous chili. This one is called a cherry bomb. Looks like it's packed with seeds. This green one's a jalapeno, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be red to save the seeds, but you know what? I don't have any red ones, so let's give this a try. We can but try. And then this one is a piri-piri bird's eye chili. And yeah, just chop them in half and return to them in 7 to 10 days. And then in theory, they should have shriveled up and the seeds should have separated from the flesh. So this whole seed saving thing is very new to me and it's highly experimental, but that's great. It keeps things interesting and fun, and I just love learning new things along the way. So I'll keep you guys posted on the status of all of my seeds, and then in theory, if I can manage to stay organized when I plant these next season, I'll try to keep track of the ones that I saved and see how they compare to the other ones. So that might be a tall order, but I'm definitely feeling a lot more organized now than I was before. And I feel like I've had a really good flurry of work these past few days. And yeah, I just feel a lot better, a lot more organized, and a lot more on top of things, and ready to get started on this tool shed, hopefully next week. So it's really hot out, and I think it's about time to say goodbye and get ready to go for a swim. I think it's the last day of the summer. It drops down to about 20 degrees in a couple days, and I just want to go enjoy the lake one last time, hang out with some friends, and not work in this brutal heat. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a long one, but I think a good one, and I shared a lot of stuff. I think I learned some new things, and I think I just need to stop blabbing and get out of this heat and go for a swim. So as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.